With that core of our multi-layered onion now configured, we need to go through identifying exactly where we want to go about enforcing this configuration. Let's start first with the DHCP example. So a client logs in here to the network, plugs in through either a wireless or a wired port, and requests a DHCP address. Well, it's here where we can bring NAP to play to prevent that DHCP address from being delivered to that client if it doesn't meet the requirement that we just set in that Windows SHV. Now, the very first thing that we need to do in order to then allow the client to then fix itself is to provide a location, one or more servers, as well as one or more networks, which we'll talk about later, but one or more servers that can then remediate the client once that client's been remanded to that protected non-production network. That happens down here under Remediation Server Groups. Now remember, what we've done is we've configured our client to not be healthy if the firewall's not turned on. So the remediation server group that we would ostensibly need to create is a connection to probably some domain controller somewhere where the client could then go about receiving its group policy that would then tell it to go ahead and turn back on that firewall. So let's call this our remediation server group, which in our case would probably involve that machine dc.company.pri. Now you can see here where things can get particularly difficult because this server is a domain controller, and the whole point of NAP is to protect our internal services from access by clients that aren't healthy. So even the sheer creation of this server and the identification of it as a remediation server kind of automatically breaks the whole mindset here if you didn't have some separate solution out there to repoint that client towards. But here for our kind of simplistic environment, this gives us a feel for what you potentially could do should you implement a solution like NAP. Now, one important caveat here as well is in recognizing that this configuration of a remediation server group may not necessarily have anything to do with the client itself attempting to actually do the remediation. We're only providing a location where the client can go, machines that that client can access in order to complete the remediation. And so there may be some other things, some other scripting or automation or what have you, whether it's group policy or scripting or an antivirus solution or what have you, that would need to recognize that that client existed in that new network. We are only here creating the network path, the enabling of the access to that network so that the machine could remediate itself. Actually doing the remediation is a topic that kind of goes beyond what we can discuss here and further solidifies why network access protection can be so difficult to implement.